Margaret, Maggie, Whitman, and I'm 71 years old. I live in Portland, Oregon, a city I have always loved for its quiet streets, misty mornings, and the gentle hum of life that seems to move slower here than anywhere else. I am a widow. My husband passed away a decade ago, leaving me with memories that are both comforting and painful. For most of my life, I worked as a museum curator, dedicating myself to preserving history, guiding young minds, and sharing stories of the past. People often say that curating history is a quiet job, but in reality, it demanded patience, attention, and a deep understanding of human emotions, much like life itself. Through my work, I met countless people, observed lives in transition, and yet, nothing could have prepared me for the personal storm that was about to strike my own family. I had always imagined that in my later years, I would spend quiet evenings surrounded by my children, perhaps sipping tea by the fireplace and sharing laughs and stories of the past. Little did I know, Christmas Eve would turn that expectation into a moment of heartbreak I would never forget. I have two children, my son Ethan Whitman, who is 37, and my daughter Clara Whitman, who is 35. Both of them grew up with love, care, and everything I could give, though I often worried if it was enough. Ethan was always the ambitious one, confident and sometimes stubborn, believing he knew best. Clara, on the other hand, was gentle, empathetic, and often the voice of reason in our family. Watching them grow into adults gave me immense pride. Every achievement, every success, felt like a piece of my own heart, thriving outside me. I dedicated countless hours to helping with homework, attending school events, and simply being present for them. Life was far from perfect. There were arguments, disagreements, and moments of frustration. But I had always believed that love and effort could smooth over any conflict. It never occurred to me that one day, that very love could be questioned, dismissed, or ignored. For decades, I devoted myself entirely to raising Ethan and Clara. I worked tirelessly, sacrificing personal dreams, vacations, and even small comforts so they could have the opportunities I often only dreamed of in my own youth. There were evenings when I stayed late at the museum, only to rush home to help with school projects or prepare dinner. Weekends were spent driving them to activities, helping with science projects, or quietly listening to their teenage frustrations. I never expected praise or recognition. Seeing their eyes light up when they succeeded was enough. I believed my love was infinite, quiet, but unwavering, like the steady rhythm of a clock. I thought that by giving everything, I had ensured a future filled with gratitude and family closeness. And yet, life has a way of testing even the strongest bonds in ways we can never anticipate. Then came that Christmas Eve, a night I had looked forward to for months. The house smelled faintly of pine and baked cookies, a warmth lingering in the air that I had always associated with family. I rang Ethan's doorbell, expecting the usual welcome, the familiar hug, and the cheerful chatter. Instead, Ethan opened the door with a stern expression. "Mum, you can't stay here tonight," he said sharply. His voice was calm, almost rehearsed, but the words cut deeper than any scream. "You're just too much trouble," he added, leaving no room for discussion. I stood frozen, the crisp night air pressing against my skin, heart pounding, disbelief clouding every thought. How could my son, the boy I had nurtured, the man I had loved unconditionally, say such words to me? I tried to speak, to plead, but the words felt trapped in my throat. I watched the door close, echoing in the quiet night, leaving me alone with my shock, my hurt, and the cold. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. I had always believed that my sacrifices, my patience, and my love had built a foundation unshakable by anger, pride, or misunderstanding. Yet in that moment, I realized that even the strongest bonds can fracture when hearts harden. Standing there, I felt a whirlwind of emotions: sadness, disbelief, hurt, and a sense of betrayal I had never imagined possible. How could someone I had loved and supported treat me as a stranger? I thought of all the Christmases past, the laughter, the joy, and suddenly they felt distant, almost unreal. That night, as I walked slowly to a nearby motel, each step felt heavy, burdened with memories of love turned cold. I replayed every moment in my mind, wondering if there was anything I could have done differently, anything I could have said to prevent this. The sense of being unwanted, unloved, and abandoned by my own child was a pain I had never faced before. And yet, it marked the beginning of a journey I could not have anticipated. A journey that would test my strength, my patience, and ultimately, my capacity to forgive. I spent that night in a small, dimly lit motel, the kind where the carpet had seen better days and the smell of old coffee lingered faintly in the air. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, feeling the weight of betrayal press heavily on my chest. Memories of Ethan as a little boy flooded my mind. His laughter, the way he used to climb onto my lap, the countless nights I stayed up waiting for him to return from school trips. How had those moments, so full of love and trust, transformed into a cold dismissal? I tried to process what had happened, questioning if I had unknowingly done something wrong, or if this was simply a reflection of the growing distance that comes with adulthood. My phone rested on the nightstand, silent, offering no comfort. Sleep was impossible. I replayed our last conversation in my head, hearing the sharpness in his voice again, feeling the slam of the door echo through my chest. I realized that I had stepped into a new reality, one where the people I loved most were not invulnerable to mistakes or anger. Yet despite the cold and fear, a small part of me refused to give in entirely to despair. I knew that tonight was only a beginning of a test I had never expected. The next morning brought no relief. Clara sent me a message explaining that she couldn't help, insisting that her husband believed we needed space. I read the words over and over, a mixture of sadness and frustration growing with each line. Suddenly, I was completely alone, stripped of the support I had always relied on. It was as if the very foundation of my family had shifted beneath me. I walked through the nearby park, the grey Oregon sky reflecting the gloom I felt inside. The frost on the grass glittered in the morning light, a stark contrast to the chill in my heart. I tried to find clarity in the quiet streets, reminding myself of past challenges I had faced and overcome. The betrayal, sharp and immediate, left a wound that seemed impossible to soothe. And yet, as I paused on a park bench, watching a small group of children laugh in the distance, I realized that my life did not have to end in sorrow. I had choices, even in this moment of rejection, and I could either allow bitterness to take over or find a path forward, one step at a time. In that moment of despair, I made a choice. I decided that I would not collapse under the weight of hurt or humiliation. I needed to reclaim my dignity and find purpose outside the confines of family conflict. I began searching for work and soon found a position volunteering at a local library, teaching adult literacy classes. The work was modest, but it gave me structure, a sense of value, and most importantly, a renewed connection to people who genuinely appreciated my guidance. For the first time in days, I felt a spark of hope. Interacting with learners who struggled with reading and writing reminded me of the importance of patience, empathy, and persistence. Each small victory in the classroom, someone finally reading a paragraph fluently, understanding a concept they had previously avoided, felt like a triumph not only for them, but for me as well. I realized that life could continue meaningfully, even when personal relationships faltered, and that my contributions still mattered. Through this work, I discovered strength I hadn't realized I still possessed. The gratitude and joy of the learners revitalized me, and slowly, I began to reconnect with old friends who had assumed that my season of usefulness had passed. Conversations that once felt distant now carried warmth, laughter, and mutual understanding. I noticed that even small interactions, helping someone navigate the library catalogue or patiently explaining a reading exercise, brought a sense of fulfillment I had not felt in years. This new routine, though humble, provided stability and a sense of accomplishment, reminding me that life's value is not solely determined by familial acceptance. My confidence began to return, not as arrogance, but as quiet resilience. I started to see myself not just as a mother who had been rejected, but as a capable, independent individual whose experience and empathy could positively impact others. Meanwhile, Ethan's life began to unravel in ways I could not have predicted. He faced professional setbacks, losing key clients, and struggled to manage mounting debts. Calls from his office grew tense, filled with frustration and self-doubt. Suddenly, the confident man who had slammed the door in my face was vulnerable, exposed, and in need of support. It was a strange reversal of roles. My son, whom I had always guided, now found himself in a situation where my presence, advice, and calm demeanor could help him navigate a crisis. I received a hesitant call from his wife, the worry in her voice unmistakable, describing how Ethan was shaken and overwhelmed. Even though my own heart had been wounded, I realized that life had a way of teaching humility and perspective. This reversal, painful as it was to witness, prepared the ground for healing and reconciliation, showing me that even the deepest betrayals could lead to opportunities for growth, understanding, and eventual forgiveness. One evening, I received a call from Ethan's wife, her voice trembling as she explained the situation. Ethan had narrowly escaped a serious car accident, and the shock had rattled him deeply. She told me that he had been reflecting on his life, his choices, and the way he had treated me. The words were hesitant, almost afraid of my reaction, but I sensed the sincerity behind them. My heart, which had carried the weight of betrayal for weeks, began to feel a flicker of hope. For the first time, I realized that my son might actually recognize the mistakes he had made. She pleaded with me, asking if I could come to the hospital, explaining that he wanted to see me, to apologize, and perhaps begin to mend the broken pieces between us. I hesitated for only a moment, feeling a swirl of emotions: fear of being hurt again, anger, and a cautious optimism that maybe, just maybe, reconciliation was possible. Taking a deep breath, I agreed, understanding that this could be the first step toward healing a bond that had been so painfully strained. Arriving at the hospital, I felt my heart race as I approached Ethan's room. The sterile smell of antiseptic and the soft hum of monitors contrasted sharply with the emotional intensity building inside me. I saw him sitting on the edge of the bed, head bowed, his hands trembling slightly. When he looked up, his eyes were filled with genuine regret, and I could see the vulnerability that had been hidden beneath layers of pride and anger. "Mom," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I pushed you away because I was angry and frustrated, but I never stopped needing you." "I'm so sorry for everything," his words struck me with the full force of truth and emotion. I could feel years of hurt, fear, and disappointment surfacing, but I also felt a surge of compassion. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the opportunity to transform pain into understanding. I approached him slowly, allowing the tears I had held back for weeks to fall freely. The embrace that followed was long, filled with unspoken apologies and forgiveness, bridging the gap that had seemed insurmountable just days before. That hospital visit marked a turning point in our relationship. Ethan's sincere apology opened the door for dialogue, honesty, and a renewed sense of trust. Over the following days and weeks, we began rebuilding our connection carefully with small gestures, phone calls, and shared time together. I forgave him fully, not just with words, but with my heart, recognizing that holding on to anger would only prolong our suffering. The process of reconciliation was not instantaneous. It required patience, understanding, and a willingness to revisit painful memories while keeping sight of hope. Each moment we shared, Whether it was a quiet conversation over tea or a walk in the park, helped to restore the bond that had been fractured. It was a delicate balance of acknowledging the past while embracing the possibility of a better, more compassionate future. This experience reminded me that forgiveness is an active choice, a conscious effort to prioritize love and connection over resentment. Seeing the transformation in Ethan, Clara also reached out, her messages tentative at first, but growing warmer with time. Slowly, our family began gathering for simple dinners, each meeting a step toward rebuilding trust, communication, and mutual respect. We laughed, shared stories, and spoke honestly about the hurt we had all experienced. The simple act of sitting together at the same table became a symbol of resilience, the strength of family bonds, and the power of forgiveness. These dinners were not extravagant or ceremonial, but they were profound in their ability to heal. We discovered that honesty and vulnerability could replace fear and resentment, creating a space where love could thrive again. What had seemed impossible only weeks earlier, the restoration of family harmony, was now unfolding before my eyes, a testament to the enduring nature of care, empathy, and the willingness to reconcile. The life lesson I carried from this experience is simple yet profound. True love is not about perfection, power, or always being right. It is about showing up, forgiving, and being present, even when circumstances seem impossible. Life can bring betrayal, anger, and heartbreak, but these moments also carry the potential for growth, understanding, and healing. By choosing compassion over resentment, patience over impulsive reactions, and forgiveness over pride, we discovered that even fractured relationships could be mended. Ethan and Clara, once distant or hurtful in their own ways, became partners in a renewed family dynamic, grounded in honesty and respect. I, too, rediscovered my own strength, purpose, and ability to influence positive change. This journey reminded me that the most meaningful gift we can offer our loved ones and ourselves is the unwavering presence of love and understanding. Despite the pain of that Christmas Eve, our family emerged stronger, closer, and wiser, forever changed by the lessons of forgiveness and the resilience of the human heart.